Palm Beach County, Mr. Gregg Weiss. Commissioner Weiss has been an influential leader in Palm Beach County, elected in 2018, and serving as an advocate for his community. Today, he's going to share his insights on AI and its potential impact on Palm Beach County. Let's hear it for Commissioner Gregg Weiss.
Well, good afternoon. Hopefully everybody's doing good. Well, how's my arm? This is what happens when you get into politics. They end up twisting your arm, and you end up like this. Just kidding. I had, some of you may have had similar surgery. I had a rotator cuff surgery about 2.5 weeks ago. So, but I feel pretty good, and I feel blessed to have had the ability to get that arm repaired or my shoulder repaired. So yeah, so I feel good. And they told me I only need this for another 3.5 weeks, so it should be good. Anyways, I'm delighted to be with you this afternoon to talk about one of my favorite subjects these days is artificial intelligence. And I saw you were having another presentation before, but once I get the computer on and set up, I've got a presentation. We'll go through and talk about why we're hearing about artificial intelligence now. What transpired to make that happen. I'll show you a couple of applications that we've created to show you some things that some of the capabilities that artificial intelligence has, and then we'll go into some Q&A. So that should keep us busy for most of the time here. But before I get started, I got a couple of questions for you all. So my first question is, how many of you have tried something like ChatGPT or Google's, now it's called Gemini, or Claude from Anthropic? We've got a few. Okay, well that's impressive. This is I've been out doing this presentation for the last few weeks, and you guys seem to be a little ahead of the pack for most of the other communities I've been into, so that's great. So let me ask then the next set of questions. How many of you have used a smartphone, ordered things online, or stream any videos? Okay, the arms go up. Right. Those are all AI powered. Oh, I gotta log in? Okay. All right. Oh, they move. Oh. Who needs you? Here, hold that.
A copy of what you're recording.
All right. So what I was saying is that all those applications use some type of artificial intelligence. Today, in particular, though, we're going to talk about something called generative artificial intelligence, and that's these tools that I think you were just looking at, like ChatGPT, like Gemini. The only large player in technology today that is not released yet an AI tool. Anyone know who it is? Amazon? Nope. Amazon has got a tool, has got a model out. Anyone else? Apple. Apple is the sole company today that, and I'm sure they've developed something, but for whatever reason have not released it. So going back to, it was the fall of, let's see, it would be in 2022, was when a company called OpenAI released their version of ChatGPT to the public. And that then spurred a lot of their competitors, we all set, on to release their products to keep up with them. So then we saw, the three major products come out. But Meta, who owns Facebook and Instagram, they've got a model out. It's called Llama, but it's as an open source model, and most people haven't seen it directly. But anyways, be that as it may. All right. Oh, is this on? Am I on? Is the dongle attached?
It's on, it's attached.
Oh. You guys may have to do this. I'm not. Oh, there it goes. It's not working. No, it should.
Tell AI to do it?
That would be great. I wish I could. I probably could. You sure the dongle's plugged in? Oh, now something happened. All right. Anyways. Yeah, you guys are just going to have to click it for me. All right. So. All right, let's go to the next slide. So generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence just to make it really, and I don't want to be repeating what you already heard, make it really basic, it is a computer model. It has been trained on virtually everything that exists on the internet. So they take all that data and they ran it through this computer program and trained the model. And it's something they call it, because of that, they also call it a large language model. And the difference at this generative AI, one of the big differences is that in the past, we have artificial intelligence applications that had been used, going way back a number of years. But you used to have computer scientists and computer engineers in order to utilize it. What generative AI has done, it has created a tool that anyone who speaks English, or quite frankly, any other language, can communicate directly with the AI program. So just using regular English terms, we can communicate with this artificial intelligence. One of the questions people ask is, is it really intelligent? Well, I think the answer to that, I think most people have come to the conclusion, is intelligence is something that belongs to human beings. That how we're able to think and create things, be logical, and really be able to identify opportunities as we're trying to solve problems different than a computer can. So intelligence is maybe a strong word to be using for these, but let's just say they're very, very smart, and we're just getting started with these tools. So they're very smart. They recently, ChatGPT passed the bar, so it was smart enough to do that. I've been able to pass the SATs, so today they are operating at what we would consider, a collegiate level. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next. Anyone remember computers looking like that?
Yep.
UNIVAC, 1950s, right? One of the very first commercial available computers. So what happened was we had a convergence of two things that allowed generative AI to come into existence today. And those two things were the tremendous computational power that we have in our computers today. We go back just, you think about the microcomputers, they only came on the scene really in the 1980s, and then most people didn't really see them until the mid mid to late 80s, you started seeing them in most businesses. And then obviously they continue to be, an accessory that a lot of people have in their homes. If you remember the early versions of our cell phones, right? They didn't have any intelligence. They were analog, they were not digital phones. Anyone know when we first saw the first iPhone? 2007, right. So the iPhone isn't that old. But that was, we had other versions, sort of smartphones, but iPhone is the one that really, I think, most people recognize as being the game changer there. Well, there's more power in our smartphones today than there was that big computer was nowhere close to what we have in our smartphones today. The other thing that happened was the internet. And by creating the internet and all the content, and if you think about all the files and blogs and videos and everything that's out on the internet today, that was then the combination of those two things, the computational power we have today and the internet allowed generative AI to move forward because they, as I said earlier, they were able to go out and basically they scraped the internet for virtually everything they could get to be able to train these models. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to hear from Congressman Ted Lieu. Oh, we didn't hear from Congressman Ted Lieu. Maybe we're not going to hear from Congressman Ted Lieu.
Ultimately, I think we're going to have to put some limits on artificial intelligence because it can cause great harm to society.
So, as you know, I'm sure you've read about it online in the newspapers or maybe on the news at Congress and many state governments concerned about the damage that can be done with artificial intelligence and trying to create a regulatory environment to keep us safe. So, things, we talk about, the deep fakes, right? Anyone remember just a couple months ago in the New Hampshire primary where there was a robocall that went out, sounded like the president advising people to save their vote to November and not vote in the primary, right? So you can see the mischief, and I would say it's more than just mischief that's going to be able to be created in misinformation and disinformation because of the power of these tools. And it's going to exacerbate what has gone on. We saw in the past, in past elections, people can argue about our Russian or foreign adversaries getting involved in our elections, spreading misinformation. These tools are going to make it easier for them to do that. So want to make sure that we put the guardrails in place to protect the public and make sure it's being used for good things. Fraud, it's ripe for fraud to be used with this technology. I think you heard earlier, you heard the voice. Well, you can make a video that makes it look like somebody is saying things that they never said. That could look like a relative, a friend, somebody, and convince people to give up information that they normally wouldn't share, making them vulnerable to financial crimes and things like that. So it is going to be important that we have guardrails and guidelines in place. We talk about the ethical considerations for artificial intelligence. Want to make sure that when you're interacting with artificial intelligence, that there's transparency, that you know that in fact it's not a human being, because quite frankly, and you'll see it in a minute, it will appear, from all intents and purposes as we're used to interacting, that it is another person that you're conversing with. Well, it's not. It's a computer, but it responds like a human being would. So we need to make sure that there's transparency. We talk about bias with these tools. Because they were based on information on the internet, there potentially can be bias in that information. I'll give you an example. Anybody remember when there used to be redlining in this country? Right? That meaning that there were areas that could not get mortgages. And so let's say we wanted to create an AI application that would review mortgage applications and help make recommendations on whether or not to fund a mortgage. Well, if you train it on all the data regarding mortgages, that's going to include the fact that in some areas it was redlined. And it would appear, from a logical perspective, you don't loan in those areas. So we're going to have to make sure that we put in place the protections so that when we use that kind of information, then we retrain the models to remove that bias. And the biases can be removed. There was an article recently, Gemini, which was released by Google a few weeks ago, when people were asking for historical information or drawing historical images, like of the founding fathers, the AI model drew them as brown and black people. And we know for certain obviously black people were not part of our founding fathers because they couldn't vote, they couldn't participate. But that was in response to Google putting in place an anti-bias that went too far in anti-bias, and so the first thing that the model tried to do was draw people as black and brown people. So things that we need to make sure that and that's just one example, and there are many others. So next slide, please. All right. So we talked about, anyone have Alexis, or we talk about Siri. Those are going to get a lot better with artificial intelligence. Right now, if you talk to those tools, sometimes it understands what you're saying, sometimes it doesn't. Moving forward, as this technology evolves and they're able to put them into smaller devices, they're going to get much more powerful and be able to really understand what you're saying and potentially have conversation with you as well. We talk about the Internet of Things, right? They call it IoT. That's all those connected devices some of us have in our houses. Could be anywhere from a light bulb to a refrigerator to a thermostat. And using artificial intelligence, they're going to be able to communicate with each other as well as ourselves. So for example, you'll be able to have an agent. That's what they call your internet, your AI tool. It would be your agent. And you can set your agent up to monitor what's going on in your house. And so if a light goes on, if the refrigerator gets too warm, if there's an issue with your thermostat, and your AC isn't running properly, to send you a notification if that's happening. Or you'll be able to have your agent, keep an eye and change things around, and you can set it up with whatever your preferences are. So you're going to see applications like that coming. As it relates to entertainment, to have tools that will be able to find you're in the mood, I want to watch blah, 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 and these parameters. Your AI agent will be able to go out and find that for you and make it available for you without having to go and search the internet yourself. And then when we talk about education, this is a huge opportunity area. Any teachers in here, past teachers? Talking about, preparing a lesson plan for a class, right? A lot of work, a lot of time. But with artificial intelligence, you not only will be able to prepare a lesson plan for your class within a few minutes, you can do one for each student, an individualized lesson plan, because you can set the parameters of what that student requires and ask the AI model to create that lesson plan, and it'll spit it out in just a couple minutes for you. And it's a real opportunity to improve the quality of education. In addition, though, we're going to have AI teachers, because AI can teach students, adults, children, on its own. So it'll interact with you and be able to help teach you about whatever subject matter you wish, including foreign languages. And I mentioned that to you before. In my office, I think many of you have met one of my assistants, Virginia Savieto, right? Virginia's been out here a few times with me. So I take my newsletter, and Virginia always translates it into Spanish for me. Well, she's originally born and raised in Argentina, so she speaks Spanish fluently, and so one day I said, let's try an experiment. I took a document that I had created, and I said, let's convert it into Spanish, and I asked the AI model to do that. And Virginia, when I handed it to Virginia, she was amazed, because she said it didn't translate it. She said it rewrote it in a foreign language, in this case Spanish. So it wasn't like Google Translate, where it goes word for word and translates it, and sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. This actually rewrote the paper in Spanish, so just tremendous opportunities. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to have some fun now with some AI. All right, so here's the problem, and I expect you all to give me an answer immediately. Old Granny Adams left half her money to her granddaughter and half that amount to her grandson. She left a sixth to her brother, and the remainder, $1,000 to the dog's home. How much did she leave altogether? How much time do you guys need? Let me know. Okay, so we're gonna give this problem to ChatGPT. Let's go ahead, and you'll watch it real time respond. So it's analyzing the problem, and so it's $12,000, right? And you can see, actually shows the work, and for the teachers here, you know, you say always show your work. There it is, showed you how it was done. So you think about that, thinking about, you know, I would say not that complicated of a word problem, but a little complicated. So you could teach a student on how to solve math problems using artificial intelligence. All right, next.
So you're saying that the budget in the United States can be settled just like this?
Well, you know, I will tell you, using it to analyze budgets, it's an amazing tool to be able to do that. Because once you feed it the data of the budget, you can start querying that and asking questions about that budget, and helping identify areas potentially where you have items that, you know, overlap each other, or it's gonna be a real boon to us. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Anyone ever see parking sign like this?
Yes.
So this is real. It does exist. That's from Culver City, California. So anyone, and I know it's hard to read from the back of the room, but can anyone figure out when you can park and when you can't park when you see something like that? Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. AI can see. It can see. So we're going to let it look at this picture and figure out what that picture says. All right. So here's the question. These parking signs are located there in Culver City. When is it legal to park? So let's turn it over to AI. So it's identifying that, it's reading the signs, and then it's saying when you're allowed to park on school days, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Friday, there's no stopping. And it was able to analyze those signs and produce an answer for us in no time. So you can give it an image. One time I took a picture, and I did this. I took a picture and I gave it to ChatGPT, and I said, what is that? And you know what it came back with? 3 fingers. It was able to identify. So it can recognize body parts. So we're talking about the ethical considerations of AI. You've heard about facial recognition, right? If you have a modern iPhone, right? It uses facial recognition to open and unlock your iPhone for you, right? Well, there's uses of it both for security purposes, trying to identify bad people, but there's also potential for misuse of that and misidentifying people. So we want to make sure that we have, again, the regulations in place. And if you talk to the police, they'll use it as an investigative tool, but it is not legal for them to make an arrest simply based on AI identification. But it does help them solve crime. All right, let's go next. All right, so anyone ever read all of these are the covenants, restrictions over at Weiss. Anyone ever read all those documents? Okay, well, we're going to give it to AI to read that document for us, and we happen to be pet owners. We love our pets, and we want to know whether or not, if we move into Weiss, we can have pets. Okay? So, and there's some questions set up, and we're going to give it to AI and let it do its thing. So we're uploading the document. It's getting, I think it's what, 77 pages long. And it's going to summarize the document for us because we thought we should, in case we're buying there, we want to make sure we get a summary of what that is. And then we're going to ask it a question about the pet policy. And it'll find the section that talks about pets in the document, and it spits out the restrictions regarding pets and when you can have them and how you have to maintain them. So you can start to see some of the power that these tools have. And again, this is all being communicated just in regular English language, right? We're not having to push any buttons, collect this, do that, just asking questions like you would of another human being. All right, so turns out you can have 2 pets in Weiss, but they can't go to the bathroom except in the dog area. So, all right. How business are going to change. I mean, anyone call support over, you need support for, I don't know whether something technical or whatever, and you end up talking to somebody maybe overseas, very difficult to understand them, not always getting your question right? It can be a little frustrating. That can all be moved over to artificial intelligence, because it can be given all the information that a human being was given, can be trained on that, and then it can answer questions based on that, and it can answer the questions just like a human being would ask it. So you don't have to ask it in a special way with any special words, just the words that you want. If you have forms that need to be filled out, it can assist in filling out the forms because it will ask the questions that need the input of what needs to go on that form. It'll fill it out and make sure that it has it. But you can also then say, well, you know what, I forgot, I need a document for this, and I don't have it with me right now. Well, it can follow up with you and remind you need to add this document. That's going to be able to help, help process things along. I mean, the myriad of applications are as big as anybody can think. It's like if you wanted to, create a new product, and we've seen examples of this where we've said AI said, I want to create a product to do this, this, and this. Can you please design that product for me? And it does. And it comes up with the design. It can draw pictures, right? It can create images. So it's going to have a big impact in businesses. And I think there was a statistic I read not too long ago that about 62% of the businesses in the United States believe that AI is going to have a large impact in their operations. So anything too from like logistics and scheduling, AI can do that much easier and faster than a human being can do that. You're talking about the ability to write documents or to respond to customer queries. Something else artificial intelligence does really well. And then if you have large amounts of data, which a lot of companies do, the ability to help go through that data, summarize it, and provide the backup that you need to help make a really informed, data-driven decision. So instead of having a lot of analysts. So let's talk about that impact. What's it going to do to jobs? What's it going to do, I personally, I think initially it's going to help people be more creative, right? And be able to spend time on really difficult tasks. So they'll use it as a tool. But some jobs are going to disappear entirely. Or they'll be cut back. The number of people needed to do those jobs is going to cut back. So I think one of the things we need to be thinking about today is what happens to those people. What happens as those jobs go away? And that we have policies in place. And initially we're going to need policies to help upskill and retrain people. We saw examples of this when this country went through sort of that globalization, when a lot of the manufacturing jobs went offshore, and so many people suffered because the policies were not in place to help support them and help them be prepared to get a new job. So that's something we're going to need to do. And then we're going to need to talk about, basic income. Because as these people are having to be reskilled and retrained, they're going to need some kind of support for them. So we're going to need to make sure we're talking about policies for that. And unfortunately, as we've seen in Congress, things are not moving very quickly. This is moving very quickly, and the impacts are going to happen very quickly. We only have just a few years, really, and so they need to get on the ball. I will tell you that in putting our federal policy, and I see Commissioner Burdick is here, so she knows what I'm talking about, that the county submits a federal policy. We create a federal policy that we send to Washington. I specifically put in a number of areas in specific to artificial intelligence, and this is one of them, that they need that we support in Palm Beach County, that they need to get started on this because they don't have a lot of time. So the impact it's going to have on jobs is I think there are going to be jobs lost. I know a lot of people say, well, they're not. It's not going to be immediate, but within a relatively short amount of time, we're going to see jobs lost to artificial intelligence. And then when you start marrying it with robotics, and that's already happening. There's a company here in Palm Beach County called Levitas. And what they did, anyone ever see one of those robotic dogs? They walk around, they're about this tall, they walk around on 4 legs, right? So what they did is they put artificial intelligence into the dog, and they're using it for industrial applications. So the dog, one of the challenges you have, if you don't, and a lot of controls in factories are not digital, they're still analog. And so that means a human being has to go and look at the dial and read that dial. Well, the dog, with the intelligence they put in the dog can walk over and read dials, right? And then it can then send that information back to the control room or whoever has to monitor that. And so that's one of the things it can do. They gave it also the ability to smell. So the dog can smell if there's a leak in the factory. So as it's going through the factory and so not having to put a human being in harm's way to do that. And then the third thing the dog can do, because of course the dog can see, is the dog can look for hazards in the factory, or anywhere for that matter, and that information then can be transmitted to somebody who can take action on that. So that's an industrial application combining robotics and AI. But you can see it, think about it as a home healthcare aid at some point that can monitor us. And send that information to our medical providers, or in the case, if it sees that we're in distress, be able to contact, fire rescue and have them, send help for us. And, potentially also, have carry-on conversations with you as well about what's happening in the world. So those are going to be available to us. Let's go to the next slide. In government, I think there's huge opportunities in government to make us more efficient. Right now, if you want to work with Palm Beach County, you have to contact us from Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and at any other time than that, you're not going to get any service from us. So we're going to be able to have AI agents that will be able to serve the public 24/7, 365 days a year. And remember, these AI models, they don't go to sleep, they don't need any breaks, they work 24/7, and they never complain. So they're the best employees possible. And they do get paid because it's not cheap to run these things, but they don't, they are there. So that means that you can conduct business with the county. If there's things that need to be followed up on by a human being, then when our human employees come in the morning, they'll be able to go through whatever transpired while they weren't there, follow up, take care of it, and get your needs taken care of. I'll give you another great example we're using AI for is in plan review. It can review a plan in a matter of minutes where a human being would take hours. And it can identify areas that need to be reviewed by a human being. And it can also tell you what areas are in compliance with our building codes. So it's going to speed up that. Permit applications, be able to help speed that up. The opportunities for this, again, are pretty endless. One of the things, we talked about filling out forms. When you're applying for benefits, and a lot of these programs are federal programs, so they all have their own form. Well, we can have a human being provide that information one time, fill out all the forms, tell them what benefits you are eligible for, and allow the user to determine whether or not they want to apply for those benefits. But making it much simpler and communicating with them and saying, okay, we need this information, we need that information from you. So again, it's just it's going to be transformative and in government. So making us more efficient. And ultimately, I believe will help us save taxpayer dollars and provide a higher level of service. So, and you want to make a policy? You need help writing policies? You can have AI go and research what's going on everywhere, not only in the United States, but across the world, and find out whoever's got the best policy. Pick and choose the pieces you want it to use, and create a new policy that's based on the best that has been developed by anybody else. So. All right, let's go. I didn't talk about defense, but we'll get back to that in a minute. So one of my favorite things thinking about artificial intelligence, anybody care about traffic? Yeah? So this is an example of artificial intelligence identifying and looking at an intersection of what's happening in that intersection. It identifies the vehicles, some being taxis. There's one in the far left corner that's a truck. It knows that's a truck. It sees the people and is able to help control that intersection. So we can do real-time traffic monitoring and traffic control using artificial intelligence. Let's go to the next slide. Let's keep going. Okay, so we're going to see, I'm going to give you a short video in a second, but you can see here's another example of how it's identified the vehicle. So it sees how many are in the intersection or at the intersection that need to get through, and it's going to be able to change those lights. But it also can see if there was an accident in that intersection and know that it needs to reroute the traffic in different directions. So it could talk to the signal prior to the one where the accident is, and change it so that it doesn't allow cars to continue forward to get caught up in that traffic jam. So let's go ahead. I think we're going to get to that video in a second.
Traffic's platform connects between road users and the city grid, solving today's traffic challenges while preparing cities for the connected and autonomous era. The VMC allows cities for the very first time to intelligently define traffic policies, and AI algorithms autonomously implement them to maximize road capacity. In a few hours, the intersections are transformed to a fully connected and autonomously managed grid. The platform operates autonomously to optimize traffic flow based on actual demand from the entire grid. Traffic lights respond to dynamic road conditions in real time. No Traffic is digitizing the infrastructure to prepare for the connected era. Our V2X technology allows for a smart infrastructure that both talks with and listens to vehicles and pedestrians.
So this is an example for traffic, but you could also do the same thing for our utilities. So whether it's water or electricity, to be able to know, or cable, to know when there's an outage, where that outage is, and then allow the engineers to reroute the water or the electricity or the cable signal around wherever that outage is. So this is, again, going to be really transformative in our lives. You know, we talk about artificial intelligence, and let's talk about healthcare and medicine and what it can do. They've given artificial intelligence x-rays to review. It's been able to see things in x-rays that human beings have never been able to see. You talk about folks, you know, if you're dealing with cancer, they're counting cells, right? When they're taking samples, they're counting the cells. That's really tedious for a human being to do. But with artificial intelligence, it's very quickly done, it's done accurately, and those results can be provided to the doctor much faster to help make better informed decisions. And then in communities where they don't have a lot of good medical care, artificial intelligence can help assist and provide at least that frontline care for folks in providing information on what, you know, potentially is happening, when to call the doctor, that you need to go to the emergency room. They'll have that device. And then for folks at home, where you're keeping monitoring devices, that information can go into artificial intelligence and again, alert the authorities or alert your doctor if something is amiss, and keeping an eye on that. On the back office of healthcare, you know, they have staffs of people just to code the information for the insurance companies, and the insurance companies get that. They look at the codes, review the codes, and then process the claim, right? Or not process the claim in some cases, as we know. But with artificial intelligence, the doctor can be actually speaking the diagnosis. Our AI can then automatically code that for them and send that off to the insurance companies' review folks, which will probably also be using artificial intelligence to review what's coming in. And so transforming how the back office of medical care is handled, which right now is really complicated and really expensive. So hopefully taking some of the costs out of operating medical clinics and so forth. So again, let's go to the next slide. So what I will tell you is that, I mean, obviously I'm a big proponent of this technology. I think it is going to transform our world. It's going to create, you know, I believe, a better quality of life for folks. There are things we need to be concerned about, but I think overall, the benefits are going to far exceed the bad actors. You know, anytime technology has been developed, we've had people doing bad things. And I'll take you back to the telegraph. I don't think anybody here was around when that came out. But during, you know, you think about, especially, we have documentation, right, during the Civil War, where they broke into the telegraph system, they sent false messages down those lines. Bad people were doing bad things back then. And once we got the telephones, people were scamming people using telephones. You know, and you give people technology, some bad folks are going to figure out bad things to do with it. But we need to use technology to help combat technology. Cybersecurity is going to become more important, but this technology is going to help in keeping us cyber safe. We use it in in our computer areas, so they monitor what activity is going on. And if something is amiss, it changes because they know what is normal. If something is abnormal, it can send an alert immediately to somebody to take action for that. If somebody was sitting watching a screen and trying to keep track of anything that is out of the ordinary, that is tedious, that is tiring, and a lot of times people can make mistakes, and this doesn't. And then I'll leave you with one other area, and that's national security. This is important for us to be at the forefront as a country. We cannot allow our adversaries, and we know who they are, China, Russia, Iran. They cannot dominate in this field. We must dominate in order to protect ourselves. I will tell you the Department of Defense is doing some amazing things and has been for a number of years to help keep us safe using artificial intelligence. On the ships, our warships, they use artificial intelligence. If there is a barrage of incoming missiles or fire coming onto our warships, and their artificial intelligence is helping to monitor that. If there is not a reaction fast enough by the human beings, artificial intelligence will take over and immediately start firing those weapons against the incoming fire to help protect the sailors on those ships. I met a fellow down at FAU not too long ago, and he's doing research for the DoD. And the project he is working on is with submarines. And what they're trying to do, and he believes they are going to accomplish this, is that they're going to put artificial intelligence into parts of the submarine. If the submarine were in pursuit of an enemy and happened to be destroyed, that there are parts of the submarine that would continue to go after the enemy even after the submarine had been blown apart. So they're building things in there. And then you talk about, autonomous vehicles, that's all AI based. The ability, at some point, I think we'll have autonomous pilots for aircraft, and those things are going to be coming. I don't know who I'll be alive during that when that happens, but at some point that will be a reality for us. So those are the points. I think it's a great time to be alive with this technology. Again, we're just in the beginning, and we're going to see, I think, some amazing opportunities for a much better life. Okay, with that, let's go to, I think, our last slide, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Yes?
With all of that intelligence, what are humans going to do? There's going to be no need for us.
Well, that's not true. So you want it right now, at least, and for the foreseeable future, human beings need to be reviewing what AI is doing. AI is not at a point, and I didn't talk about hallucinations. AI can hallucinate. It's getting better at not doing it, but it hallucinates. What does that mean when it hallucinates? It makes things up. It will make things up. Anyone hear about the case where you had a lawyer submitted a brief to the courts, and turns out the cases that they had submitted as part of their brief were not true. They didn't exist. AI just made it up because it sounded good. And so you have to have human beings reviewing what the AI is doing. It's a tool that makes us faster and better. Same thing with the building, as the example I gave you with the building review, right? So that means the person is still important because they're going to be reviewing what the AI has done. So now instead of being able to do maybe one plan every 2 days, they can do 5 plans in a day, right? So that's just going to make them more efficient. So we're going to need the need. We're going to, and again, it's at this point we don't have AI creating AI yet. However, AI is very good at writing computer code. But again, somebody has to review it because it is not perfect. It is not perfect. Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess what all this is about now, it's quantum physics. What we're seeing now, eventually we're going to lose all our computers. The quantum physics will take up because our computers are binary code 0 and 1.
Right.
In a quantum series, it's infinite. So what's going on is It's unbelievable what can happen in the future. That school teacher creates work for the students. That student just has to look at his watch and get all the answers. It's all going to be. Going to school, if you're just looking at your watch to get any kind of information anywhere.
But we can do that today, right? Kids can do that today, right? They have access to Google and the internet, right?
Right.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but I just.
All right. And I can see too, we better be against, Iran, especially China. I know Google's got the new system now where they have artificial intelligence now, but it's very expensive. But if we don't get ahead of them, we're going to be way, way behind.
100% right. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I remember when I went to school, I was going to school and calculators came out, right? And it was like, oh no, kids can't use calculators because they're never going to learn math, and right? Well, kids go to school. All the kids today go to school with calculators, right? When then the word processors came out, and they said, okay, no, you can't use a word processor because nobody's going to know how to write, and But everybody uses word processors today. It's a tool. If you have somebody, let's say, they're smart, but maybe they don't write well. Okay, they're just not a good writer. That doesn't mean they're not intelligent. Well, using artificial intelligence, they can express their thoughts and give it to AI and ask AI to create the document. Now, it's their thoughts that created that document. AI just wrote it for them in a proper way. So, did we lose anything, or have we gotten better? I think we've gotten better. Yeah.
My understanding of the word generative from my son's work at Carnegie Mellon University, where he teaches this kind of thing, like coding. The understanding of generative frightens me because, thank you. Generative to me means, or from my understanding, it's based on chaos theory, and it is unpredictable. So, for example, in generative art, I've seen the outcomes are very, very unpredictable because it's based on chaos theory mathematically. How do you address the danger involved in the concept of chaos or unpredictable qualities to this AI that you propose is a very good thing?
So the models have been, they are trained, right? So they are learning based on the information that they're given, and then they are retrained on specific information. So if you, as the example I gave you, the document, right, the CCNRs for Bay Winds, right? So it was reviewing that. It wasn't making anything up that wasn't in that document. It read the document. I can't say it understood it because that's a human trait of understanding, but it was able to use that document and address the questions that we asked it, and it did it solely based on the information. So that it had access to. So I guess what I'm saying is that, yes, as we said today, it will hallucinate, but the models are getting better, and they're reducing the amount of hallucination. Will it ever be 100%? Probably. I don't know when or how, but potentially we'll get it solved.
Okay, for you.
Good, thank you. So I don't have to choose. I don't want anybody mad at me because I didn't choose them fast enough.
I find it very difficult to find free lunches. So, along with a loss of privacy, what else is it going to cost us?
Well, it costs us a lot in energy. They're very energy intensive. As it relates to privacy, and that's a great question or a great issue or concern. So some of the models today allow us to keep our information private. But if you're really concerned about privacy, first thing I would say to you
Is stay off the internet.
This is probably the biggest invasion of anybody's privacy because they know where we are. They know every keystroke we are. They know what our faces look like. They know our expressions on our faces. They know whether it's this way or that way, if it's moving, if it's not. And all that information is getting collected. I was just with somebody, I did this presentation a few days ago. She works in one of the large banks in security. And she told the folks there, the banks today, they know everything you're doing when you're interacting with that application. They're gathering every bit of information. And this is from a security perspective, is the reason why they're doing it, to see if anything is out of the ordinary for you. But you've given up your privacy. If you've taken a cell phone, you've given up your privacy a long time ago. And you know, as it relates to uploading documents and things like that, businesses will be able to have and be able to afford to have their own private, if you will, AI models. And then some of the models, Claude, for example, which Anthropic has, their concern was with the ethics, and privacy is one of them. So nothing that you do with Claude goes anywhere. That's only for you during that session, so you can protect your privacy. And these models are not free. If you want the latest and greatest, you're going to pay for them as a member of the public. If you're a business, you're going to pay a lot more for it. I subscribe to ChatGPT. It's $20 a month to have access to their GPT-4. But it's also available for free through Microsoft. Microsoft, if you use Bing, or now it's called Copilot, that gives you access to ChatGPT-4. Gemini, which was released just a couple weeks ago, they have a premium service, also $20 a month. Anthropic has a premium service, also $20 a month for an individual, if you want the highest and most latest model and the ability to upload certain types of documents and the size. We didn't talk about their ability to draw pictures. I mean, and this is sort of interesting, you can ask these models to draw an image, you describe what you want in that image, and it'll draw that for you. So everybody has the ability now to be an artist. With this tool, you can ask it to create music for you. You can describe how you want the music in the style you want it, and it will do that for you. You can write stories with it, giving it the plot line and things like that, filling in all the sort of background, and tell it you want to create a story, and it'll write that story. And you can describe, or a poem if you want to write a poem. So but the privacy side of it is that you're going to have. It's something we're going to grapple with. You think about, anybody use Facebook or Instagram, or, no. That's okay, but a lot of people do, right?
Yes.
They've got all that, that's how they exist, is selling that information, right? Okay, next.
Sorry. Okay. I'm thinking of privacy, like you said, and these various things, but I'm thinking of companies that are experimenting now in AI, right? Like NVIDIA, which is skyrocketed to be $1 trillion company, trillions. And if you go into that company, I'm just wondering, what kind of things do you think they would be working on right now? So what kind of stuff would they be working on right now?
So NVIDIA right now they build the chips. They design the chips, and they have them manufactured for them that are primarily used for, turns out, so they use something called a graphics processing unit. Sometimes you've heard about CPUs, central processing unit. So computers, microcomputers based on CPUs. And then they started getting graphics cards. And so you could buy a separate graphics card, and it used a GPU, a graphics processing unit, to help build the graphics up. And that's what NVIDIA started their business on. Well, it turns out that the GPUs were really good at processing the computer processing for running these AI models. And so that skyrocketed their value because they were the premier company in building these GPUs. They're going to start to see competition from other companies. Intel, I know, is working to design higher processing GPUs. So right now, NVIDIA is in the business of chips, right? They don't build a model or have created a model that I'm aware of yet, so.
Mr. Weiss, when you talked about the merger of AI and robots, it made me think of like bomb squads. Are they already trying to utilize things like that?
So, in fact, our bomb squads here in West Palm Beach and the sheriff's office, they have robots today but they're operated by a human being, right, with a remote control. So I think that the opportunities, and specifically in that area, is going to have them be more autonomous, right? And so because the range in which they can operate from the controllers is not as far away as maybe you want to be, and you can allow it to go into an autonomous mode, go in there, see what's going on, and then come back out and report to the human beings.
You were talking about medical. How's it doing in the operation fields and where doctors can check on what's going on, cancer, eyes, hearts? How's that doing?
So, and I'm not an expert on this, so I'm probably not the best person to try and answer that question for you. I will tell you something that I've done. I've taken, I get my blood test. I go and get my annual physical, right? I get my blood test. I just feed that into AI and ask it, act like a doctor and tell me what does this mean. So by the time the following week when I go to see my physician, I've already got my questions lined up for him on what my blood test results were. We're seeing right now. You see robotics being used in the operating room, and we're seeing the ability to have remote robotics, so that you're going to have a doctor. Maybe the specialist is not in your vicinity, but then can go and operate the robot from a distance, and so that's going to give access to people to have the real specialist. As it relates to AI and helping them identify specifically what they're looking for, it could read an MRI and help them. I would assume. The other thing you start to think about is in thinking about, and you can think about a doctor. So they get the before they make the diagnosis, they're looking at all the symptoms and so forth and the test results. And they're going to have probably a natural tendency of what they're going to want to diagnose. But with an AI tool then, it's going to give them alternative diagnoses that they may also want to consider. So it's just going to be an extra set of eyes and ears. But let's think about, with emergency services. And so your paramedic comes out, and there's things that they need to, right now they have to memorize everything that they need to do. With an AI model assisting them, can be taking them through step by step of what they need to be doing. And they can be saying, what's happening, and the AI can help identify and advise, what else and what other steps can be taken. Or say, somebody coming out to fix your AC unit. And maybe they don't have as much experience. And then they can use AI to help add on to that experience and help them make a better diagnosis of what's happening with the system, how to go through and replace that part. I mean, I know, like for me, I want to fix things myself, so I go on YouTube, I watch the videos, and I try and remember. Well, if I have a camera sitting next to me and I have an AI agent, it can be watching exactly what I'm doing and telling me step by step what I need to be doing to ensure that I did my repair properly, and then my wife won't yell at me.
Anybody else?
I'm a retired school psychologist. I see that very helpful in special ed, or just for what you're saying, like with the air conditioner or whatever, to really help these children who we have to really rely on a lot of information that I have to memorize, but also when you do these testings and diagnostics, if they could be, helpful in that sense, I think we'd get a lot more success. It would cost us a lot less to help the children that we're responsible for in special education.
That's a great.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Anybody?
You talked about the computer when the calculators when they first came out. If you were not conscientious when you were using the calculator, all it did was get you the wrong answer faster. How does that work with AI, with the super speed and all of that? With the nuts that are running the country today, can we end the world tomorrow because somebody used IA and got the wrong answer?
We can always end the world in a very short order, and it seems like some days we seem closer to doing that than others. But yeah, look, so students are gonna have to be trained on how to use these tools. That's what they're gonna have to know. They're gonna need to be able to adapt to a lot of changes that are happening in their lives and being able to learn and relearn. When I go out and I talk to kids that are graduating high school, I say, you know, I think your biggest skill that you're gonna need is your ability to be logical, to be able to be willing to retrain yourself, to know that things are gonna change, and your ability to adapt to that change is how you're gonna be successful. I think that's going to be the key, I believe, for young people. Education is always important, but for them, their careers are probably going to change multiple times in their lifetimes. Yes.
Yes, one of my pet peeves is seeing so many fraudulent sites on the web and fraudulent pictures. Is AI going to progress to the point where it's going to warn us when we enter a site that's not legitimate, whether it be a bank site or whatever, or warn us that the picture we're looking at is not real?
Great question. My immediate response, I haven't seen applications that do it, but there's no reason why it couldn't. No reason why it couldn't. But yeah, if you see these phishing emails you're getting, how much better they look, how much more real they look, those are people using AI to create that. What we got?
Hello. MIT, I want to let everybody know, MIT is offering a 6-week online course entitled Artificial Intelligence Implications for Business Strategy. And I attempted to retrieve this information in its entirety utilizing artificial intelligence. However, no small part of AI hallucinating made it necessary to compile approximately 40% of this information manually, just to let you know. And I can understand the trepidation. No one wants a HAL 9000, you know. So first of all, when I get home, I'm going to need to engage in a serious discussion with my Alexa.
That's great. Anybody else? We got one more up here. Okay, so this will be our last question.
Okay, the last question. Come.
So you got the last one. Better make it good, Les.
Okay. Here we go.
No pressure.
I'm a little fearful of panic and things like that. The gentleman mentioned something about blowing up the world and that. It reminds me that 25 years ago, as we were approaching 2000, I had this friend up in Pennsylvania, and he spent $10,000, which is probably more than that now, to build a complete shelter underground because he was convinced that when the ball dropped and he became January 1 of 2000, there's going to be big problems because the Y2K bug, which never existed, was not going to be solved. Now, I loved your presentation, Greg. I love you, you're great. But you know what? Every time you said AI or artificial intelligence, in my mind, I substituted highly sophisticated computer program. Because that's what it is. It's a computer program. It's not intelligent. It doesn't know. It only does what the computer. Okay, 60 years ago, next month is the first time I got paid money to program a computer. The year before that, I took a course. And the computer was like that one and the big screen. Wait, I'm going to say. So the question is, how is it different now? How is the latest craze is artificial intelligence. That's a buzzword.
It is a buzzword.
And it's like misleading to me. How do you explain to people people that we're not going to get blown up, and that we're not dealing with an intelligent species that we've created.
We're not dealing with an intelligent species. I will tell you this. So there is a term. It's called PDOOM, and that's a probability of absolute destruction created by artificial intelligence. I don't think anybody will say that it is zero. That is zero. Now, people can argue whether it's 5%, 10%, 15, 20, you name what the percentage you think the likelihood of us destroying mankind by developing this technology. Today we are at generative AI. The goal is to get to what's called AGI. And that's basically coming into human level intelligence. We're not there yet. But this is putting us on the path to get there, and it's from the experts I talked to, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 years out before artificial general intelligence is going to be developed and be available. Whether we can use this for good or use this for bad, I mean, I don't believe in the Terminator. I don't believe that we're going to have these bots coming after us and destroying us and turning us into paper clips. But on the other hand, we certainly can destroy ourselves. We've proven it with pretty much every other technology we've had, right? And this is just something else we've got, and we're going to have to manage it properly and make sure we're doing the right things and helping people with it rather than destroying things with it. So I'll leave it. That's where I'll leave it. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.